Get comfortable, maybe dim the lights a little and just listen. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true stories where ordinary days turned unsettling. Pay attention, because you never know who or what might be watching. A few months ago, I was driving home from a friend's place around midnight. I turned onto a narrow one-way street, one I've driven 100 times. It's always empty after business hours, so I wasn't paying full attention, just cruising on autopilot. That's when I saw her. A very thin woman with scraggly gray hair, maybe in her 50s or 60s, stepped off the sidewalk directly into the road, right in front of my car. I slammed the brakes. I wasn't going fast, so I stopped in time, but I remember thinking how strange it was. There were no cars behind me. She could have just waited 2 seconds for me to pass. But she didn't cross. Instead, she stopped in the middle of the street, then slowly turned and walked straight toward my car. She placed both hands on the hood, leaned in, locked eyes with me through the windshield. Her pupils were blown wide, almost black. Her expression was twisted, angry, unblinking. There was something in her stare that didn't look entirely human, almost demonic. I reacted without thinking, shaking my head, yelling, "No, no, no!" at her like it might snap her out of it. But she didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't blink. For a moment, I wondered if she needed help, but the way she just stood there, silently pressing her hands into my car, eyes burning into mine, every instinct screamed, "Go." I threw the car in reverse and lurched back. She straightened up, still staring at me, then casually turned and walked back to the same patch of sidewalk she'd come from. I didn't wait to process it. I shifted into drive and sped past her, but when I glanced in my rearview mirror, my blood ran cold. She had stepped back into the road, into the exact spot where she'd blocked me. Only this time, she had both hands raised above her head, like she was howling at the sky. Why? I have no idea. Afterward, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was high. Maybe she wasn't trying to hurt me. But the look in her eyes, it was beyond creepy. Something I'll never forget. I haven't driven down that street since day or night. I was about 7 years old and my brother was around 10. It was way past our bedtime when our mom woke up from the couch and told us to head upstairs. Our dad worked construction out of town back then, so it was usually just the 3 of us for weeks at a time. At the top of the stairs, my parents' bedroom was immediately to the right. Going left puts you in the center of a long hallway. My brother's room was at one end, my room was at the other, directly across from the upstairs bathroom. At both ends of the hallway were windowed doors we kept locked and almost never used. Mine led to a balcony over the front yard, and my brother's opened onto the back porch. Both my mom and brother had a habit of waking up during the night to use the bathroom. I knew this only because I was a light sleeper, and they never remembered to shut the door or skip the flush. But that night, something was different. My brother stopped on his way to his room and came back toward the bathroom. "I'm gonna try to pee before bed," he said. "The past few nights, I've been too scared to walk down the hallway. I keep seeing a man wearing stripes standing at the end of it." I don't know if my mom was half asleep or thought he was trying to scare me, but she didn't react at all. I reacted, though. I was terrified. The idea of a ghost waiting at the end of the hall, or staring through one of those doors, was enough to make me sprint from the stairs to my bedroom for years afterward. Fast forward to when I was about 18. My mom and I were in the car talking about Max, a dog we'd had briefly when I was little. We were laughing about his habit of chewing up my shoes when she suddenly said, "Do you remember when I opened the door for the cops and Max ran straight to the kitchen and tore open that giant bag of dog food?" I stared at her. In all our years in that house, we had never called the police. Ever. I asked her what she meant, and she looked just as surprised, like she'd accidentally let something slip. "Oh, that's right. I never told you. You were too young." Then she told me. One night, she woke up to noises outside her window. When she looked, a man was standing there, staring into her bedroom. When she turned on the light, he bolted. She grabbed my dad's pistol and called the cops. She described him as a tall white man, striped shirt, jeans, short dark hair, something like that. The police said he matched the description of a man they were hunting for in the area. He had escaped jail on a murder charge. I know it seems obvious hearing those two stories back to back, but it wasn't until my mid-20s that it finally clicked. My brother hadn't been seeing a ghost. He had unknowingly been warning us about a murderer who was stalking our house for multiple nights. So to all the parents out there, when your child says they saw something scary, don't immediately assume it's just imagination. Sometimes it's a warning. When I was a kid growing up in a tiny town in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't unusual for my parents to leave me and my little sister home alone for a few hours while they ran errands. My mom had two brothers, and one of them lived in town, so my cousins and I were always at each other's houses. Back then, the rules were simple. Don't open the door for anyone and don't use the stove. No one thought twice about it. After my parents divorced, we were left alone even more often, because they worked opposite shifts. My sister and I lived in town. My cousins and grandma lived out in the country with only a few neighbors. We got to be both city kids and country kids. And because the whole community was so small, everyone knew everyone. We all felt safe, like nothing truly bad could ever happen. And if it did, the neighbors would step in. Around the time I was 8 or 9, the phone calls started. It was always a man's voice. The calls almost always came when I was home alone. He'd tell me he could see me, that he knew I was by myself, that he was coming to get me. I was terrified, but I never told my parents. I didn't want to lose my grown-up privilege of babysitting my little sister, as dumb as that sounds now. So I kept it to myself. One day, my cousin, who was a year older, was at my house while my dad was at work. We were watching TV when the phone rang. She answered, and her face drained instantly. When I asked what was wrong, she whispered that it was a man who called her a lot when she was home alone, always saying he knew she was by herself and was coming for her. I was stunned, because I'd been getting the same calls. We convinced ourselves it had to be one of her older brothers or their friends playing a cruel joke. We calmed down and laughed it off. For a while the calls stopped, and I almost forgot about them. The summer between 6th and 7th grade, things changed again. My grandma had taken a part-time job, my mom lived in another town, and my sister and I were home alone almost all day while my dad worked. We spent our days riding bikes, playing in the yard, or tanning in the backyard. One day, my sister was at a friend's house, and my cousin was at mine again. We were blasting music and dancing around the living room when the phone rang. I picked it up and heard that voice. I was 12 now, with a bit more attitude. When he said he knew we were alone, I laughed and said, "Liar." He paused, then said, "I can prove it." Trying to sound braver than I felt, I said, "Oh yeah, then do it." His voice changed. "I love that little yellow tank top you're wearing today." My cousin had turned off the music and was staring at me, so she saw the color drain from my face. I had just bought a new outfit that morning. Yellow tank top, jean shorts with a yellow and pink patch. He described it perfectly. I slammed the phone down and yelled, "It's him! He knows we're alone!" My heart was pounding. My cousin and I raced to close the curtains. She said we needed to call someone. She tried her mom at work. No answer. I called my dad's work and begged the gate guard to have him call me. As we were panicking about what to do next, we heard gravel crunching in the driveway. I ran to the window. A small red car was parked there. Inside were a man and a woman I had never seen before. In a town that small, you recognized everyone. But I didn't know either of them. I froze. My cousin locked the back door. We had no weapons except maybe my softball bat. She hissed, "We have to hide." She squeezed into the narrow space between a tall bookshelf and the wall. I dove behind the recliner facing the window. I watched as the woman got out of the red car and walked to our front door. She didn't knock. She tried the doorknob. I held my breath so hard my chest hurt. Her shadow moved past the curtains as she walked toward the carport. Then the doorknob shook. Hard. Like someone was trying to force it open. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. After what felt like forever, the sound stopped. Silence. We didn't move. Eventually, we heard the car reversing down the driveway. When I finally peeked out, they were gone. No car, no people. Just us, shaking. We rode our bikes to my aunt's office and told her everything. The phone calls, the years of it, the red car, the description of the man and woman. She immediately called the police, and we gave statements. When my dad got home, my aunt filled him in. From that day forward, we weren't allowed to stay home alone again until I was about 16. We never heard anything back from the police. The calls stopped. We never saw that red car again. To this day, we don't know who made those calls or who those people were. Maybe the calls were a cruel prank. Maybe those people were just random burglars. But the timing, the details, the matching voices, no way that was a coincidence. I still think about it all the time. I don't know if that man kept watching us as we grew up, but the experience changed me. Now, as a single mom who sometimes has no choice but to leave my kids alone briefly, I'm strict, maybe too strict, with rules and instructions. They roll their eyes. But I know better now. The world isn't as safe as we thought it was in that tiny town. Thanks for listening. If this story gave you chills, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Stay aware out there. You never know who's watching.